everyone, this is Katie from the Kraemer Life, and I wanted to put a video together showcasing how I was able to find so many properties for us to go look at. And hopefully this will help you all with tips and tricks and what I learned while we searched for property for over a year. And so here are some of the sites that I used and how I narrowed down my search. So I hope you enjoy. Here we go. There was a few sites that I used. I used Lands of America, Landwatch, and Zillow. Of course, we also used realtors. I would go into Lands of America. That was my personal favorite. And I would just look at where it was that I wanted to go. So if I knew an area or a county, that was always very helpful. Cott County in Tennessee. And you can do multiple counties. So we could look at Greene County as well. And then we could look at Hawkins County. I know all of those are pretty similar in location. So as you can see, there's 1,100 listings here in these 3 counties. So that's a lot of properties to look through. So you can narrow your search quite a bit. I always look at the status. I don't want to look at things personally right now that are under contract. You can do that if you're willing to wait and see if something falls out of contract. But for me, I really wanted to look at things that are only things that are available. If there's anything that is a must-have for you, so your keywords, for us, it was a creek. This is where it really narrowed down quite a bit. I leave everything else open. I'm okay if it has a residence or it does not have a residence. If you want a residence, I would put in what your least acceptable is, meaning if you prefer a 4-bedroom house, but you'd be okay with a 3-bedroom house, I'd only put in 3 bedrooms because it's going to pull anything from your minimum and higher. And if there are certain property types that you're really particular with, like you want it to have waterfront or you want it to be near water, you'd want to put those in there if those are deal breakers. If they're not, you can leave them kind of open and sort through because that's really going to narrow down what you're getting. I go ahead and I apply the filters. That took it all the way down to 221 listings. But we're going to narrow it down even further because price is important. I do have a price point in which, we would like to stay within. I leave the minimum price as open and the maximum price, let's cap it at $500,000. So that brought it down to 192 listings. So now here's where another piece is important. Do you have a minimum acreage that you personally are looking at? For me, it was 5 acres, and I was open to as big as I could get for the price. So as you'll see, we went from 1,100 listings down to 103. So here's where it's fun. This is where you kind of go in, and depending on the front picture, if there's something that catches your eye, whether it's the price point, whether it's the acres, whether it's the, the city that you're looking in, or whether this image here catches your eye. So for me, I know that we want to be homesteading and we want land that is flat to rolling. We don't want really, really steep inclines unless it's just a portion of the land. So for us, I wouldn't even look at this one, even though that's an amazing price per acre. For what I'm looking for, I would pass on this one. So then I would start looking at this one here in Rogersville. So it's 40 acres, so that's a good sized property. It is 240,000. And so what I would do is I would just go ahead and click on here. And the first thing I always do is I read and I look at what it offers. And it looks like it has, there used to be a trailer, so it has power, sewer, and a well on site. So that is a huge bonus for us because it already has the utilities started. And then it looks like there's a road system. The pond needs some work. You're looking for hunting. It has that. The owner's not going to subdivide it. And it is heavily timbered. It's secluded. And you can just look through and see if there's anything additional. You can look at the map and kind of see what the shape of the property is. And to me, it looks like this is a nice road, so it does have road access. It's not landlocked, meaning you don't have to go through somebody else's property to get to it. So for me, these are all things that interest me. It has 64 pictures, so that's quite a few pictures. So it looks like there's a little bit of steep terrain right there. Looks like there's some hills. It looks like there's some rocks in the hillside. Definite signs of animals. It looks pretty hilly to me. So far, I'm not seeing anything really flat. And one thing on Lands of America, what a lot of the realtors do, they'll put their hat on a tree so they can show you the growth and how wide the tree is, so you can actually get a real consistent measurement of the growth of the trees, which is, in my opinion, I like it, so you can kind of see if it's all new growth, if there's some old growth, or if it's a good mixture. Gotta love the chairs. So this is a very wooded property. It does look like this levels out quite a bit up here. You've got some nice views. I'm not seeing the creek though yet, so we'll see if there's a creek. So for me, I don't see a creek on here, and it doesn't have a creek. And so remember, I put that in as one of my must-haves. That was a feature that I needed. Well, one thing, there's a flaw with the putting the creek in there. If it says creek anywhere in the title, in any of the descriptions, in anything, it's gonna come up. So I looked through all those pictures. I didn't see a creek. I read through everything. I don't see that it has a creek. And the reason is it's on Beach Creek Road. So that's telling me that this property for me is a pass, because I want it to actually have a creek on it, not be on Creek Road. So the next one, this one is on Grassy Creek Road. So again, there's a possibility that this one is not going to have a creek. But just because it has creek in the title does not mean it does not have a creek on the property. I'm just going to very quickly, because I know that's important to me. I don't want to waste a lot of time searching. And it looks like you can see the creeks are these little dots. Typically, those are usually creeks, or the branch down here. So it looks like this property does not have a creek on it. So again, that's going to be something that I'm going to pass on. One thing I really do like about Lands of America, for me, it's extremely helpful. Many of the listings do show this type of a picture, and it helps with the topography. So when you're looking at pictures and you're like, ooh, I wonder how much of a slope that is, because it's really hard to tell within photos. One of the things I really like about this site is this is showing you these are 20 feet increments. So you're seeing that you've got 20 feet between each of these line bands. Your property is going from 1,600 feet towards the top down to 1,500 feet. So on this 23-acre property, you have over 100 feet of slope from one area to the other. So you definitely have some sloping on this property. And then you look down here, and it goes from 1,480 up to 1,700. So this is a significant slope. So this is a very steep portion of the property over here. So those are things that you would want to take into consideration depending on what it is you're looking for. If you're looking for a hunting property, that's great. If you're looking for something a little bit more level, then this is one that you can pretty much count out right away. So I go ahead, and I'm just going to go back to the listing. And you basically get the point. This is how I start to look for land. So as you can see, there's, we have over 115 properties that we can look at. For whatever reason, that if it doesn't say creek in the title, then there's most likely a creek. And a lot of times creeks and water features will be on the front page. It's definitely something that if there's a creek, as you can see, here's a creek right here. Probably that's either a creek or a road, but it looks like a creek to me because it looks like the road's right here. So you'll get pretty used to looking through these and what interests you. Like this one's interesting because it does have a house on it, but as you'll see, it's 5 acres, 5.8 acres for $300,000 because it does have a house on it. So a lot of times when you see the cheaper properties, it means that there's very likely there's not going to be a house on it. Like here's one on Cave Springs Road. This one is a property in Rogersville. It's 27 acres. We've actually looked at this property. Has a beautiful creek on it. There's the creek. Another thing here, looking at trying to find it, I believe it's this property right here. This usually has directions, so you're able to find it. So as you're looking through here, this first initial picture may be enough, or the price point with the description might actually be enough for you to pass on. That's only you can say that. When I first started, I literally looked at every single one. So I'd go through all 100. Then I would make my determination and I would start to put them on a property list. And that's how we devised this property list that you see here. We put which state it is that it's located, the city, how many acres it is, the price, the status. The status a lot of times is by the time I find it, and by the time we're able to go look at it, sometimes they go pending, they go off market, or they're sold. So we do keep track of that too. Nate gets his say on whether or not he likes it. I get my say on whether or not I like it. And a lot of times we don't fill this out until we've both had a chance to look at it. And what that means is I'm the one who goes and looks for the properties, doing exactly what I'm showing here. I go through and I put in the criteria, the locations, and then put in my notes, and I put, let's see, for an example, a creek, a spring, and on this I say check GIS because I can't see the topography. So for that example, that's a good example of one where, similar to this, it doesn't show the topography. I can't tell how steep it is back here. I can tell there's an incline from the pictures, but there wasn't anything on here to really show me. To me, it looks like this right here is a ridgetop or a hill. Just looking at photos, you can, obviously scroll this out, which again is another nice feature. So yes, I can definitely tell this is a ridgetop now. So I want to know how steep this is, because that's not a very deep property. So I put those kinds of notes on there. And then what Nate does is he goes in and checks the GIS. And that's when he'll typically put a yes or a no on there. And then I'd always add a link of either where I found the property or the property where the property has some really good details, because some sites you're going to find don't have a lot of information on them. And as much as I like Lands of America, I would say the majority of the listings do have a lot of information on them, but not all of them. Some are very, very poorly put together, unfortunately, especially when you're coming to land. There's like one sentence or there's one photo, and I don't want to rule a property out because the realtor didn't put the effort into putting a lot of information on. So what I will do is, if I see something that I'm interested in, so here's one on Sherman Hollow Road. It looks like it has an address. It's showing that it's available. I'm looking for additional information. So one of the first places I check is Zillow. On Zillow, it's showing that the property is not for sale. So me personally, having looked at Lands of America for as long as I have, I do know that this can happen on occasion where a property is listed for sale, but it's actually not for sale. But not everyone posts land on Zillow. That's why Zillow's not my go-to choice for land. I don't want to make an assumption just checking one place that it is or is not for sale. A lot of times I want to make sure, if it's something that I'm really interested in, that it is in fact for sale. All I do is I just go into Google and I would put the address, if I have the address, which is great, and I would look and see. And typically you're gonna find quite a few different places. I know that this place sold back in March of 2021 because we looked at it in December of 2020, and it did sell for $340,000, which was right about asking price. But it does look like it's actually for sale again. And it looks like they're trying to sell it for $459,000. So I would pull up, realtor.com, and this one looks like Remax. And so what I would want to do is I would want to see, is this property actually for sale? It's a newly listed property. It looks like it is available for sale, 82 acres, and it does not have a lot of details. So I'm going to go to realtor.com and see what they have. This one, you can see the property details. Again, has pretty much the exact same information as The other site has property history, so you can look. This is what I love. This is where I typically go to Zillow for, but this is what I really want to know, because I want to know, was it sold and how long ago it was sold, because that's really interesting for me. If a property sells every year, or if it's sold and then it's right back on the market, I want to know why, and I want to kind of ask those questions. For me, that's important. For you, it may not be. This property, as you can see, it was listed. It was relisted for $359 on February of 2021. It did sell for $340,000, and so they removed the listing, and then they relisted it almost a year later for $120,000 more than they purchased it for. And this looks exactly like our property search video of it does. This is the reason why it's really important when you're doing a search that you don't limit yourself to just one site, because you'll be able to see the history of the property on multiple sites. If I was just searching on Zillow, this property would not have come up because it's not showing as actually being on the market. I found it via Lands of America, and I got additional details, and actually the realtor.com is the one that gave me the most information. So it gave me all of the details and the pricing and the sales history, and that's something that, for me is important to look at. One of the things you can do when there's so many properties is you can actually sort them to what's most important to you. Do you want to look at the largest acreage first, the smallest acreages first? Do you want to look at from lowest price to highest price? Do you care about price per acre? Or is the status recently changed? So has it just gone down in price? Has it just come back on the market? Things like that. So typically when I was searching, I would either do acreages large to small, because for me, like I said, 5 was my minimum, so I put 5 acres in here, but that was my minimum. So those were typically the properties that I was least interested in, but I wasn't going to rule them out. I wanted to look at largest to smallest, and then I'd also like to look at lowest price to highest price. And it's going to take you back, so your lowest price property, it's the exact same one we started with. So you'll kind of see how they jump up, and sometimes you're surprised. Sometimes some of the lower properties are actually the larger acres, because you'll usually get a better price per acre the more acres you get. The smaller acreages typically are higher price per acre. One thing as I'm scrolling to the bottom here that you may notice is listings from other sources. This is another good resource, even though this is showing the same property 3 times. Normally, this is going to be places outside of Lands of America, but they still have them in here. So you'll be able to look and see and find places that are similar to your search, but that are not actually posted on Lands of America. So this is a great tool and a great resource that I've actually found quite a few properties with. This one, of course, caught my eye because, you know me, I'm a big water person. Anytime there's a water in the first picture, no matter how big it is or the price, I almost always click on it. Unfortunately, this isn't a gated subdivision, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a pass on that because that's not something that I'm personally interested in. Another thing on Lands of America that I really like is you can actually look for properties that include mineral rights. And you can also, if owner financing is important to you, that's another option that you can put on here. This is how you can look for properties on Lands of America. You can also search properties if you are looking for, say, Cobb County is what you think, but you're not sure what other counties may be around. You can always look on the map. And here's what I like about this. So I personally knew that these were all adjoining counties, but here I have one right here. Here's another county that I don't have. You can look at adding additional areas. You can remove these counties, but it's still going to stay in that, you know, which area do you want to look at? Where are you interested? So if Tennessee's, you know, where you're interested in. So if you kind of know the area that you're looking for, you can redo the search area here. And what I like about this is if you're open to different states, or you're kind of just in a vicinity that you're looking for, this is a great way to do proximate searches, or a great way to expand your area and maybe find a new area. This is actually how we started to span out and go outside of just the few areas that we were familiar with. Do you want to be in the mountains? Do you want to be outside of the mountains? Are you okay if you're up in Kentucky or Virginia? Are you okay if you're in North Carolina versus Tennessee? What is it that you're looking for? So you've got quite a few options when you go this way if you are really open to different geographic regions. As you can see, I still have my criteria in here. So I still have my price point, I still have my acres, and I still have that I'm interested in a creek. So that's still going to go ahead and give me that same search criteria, but what I did is I did a map search rather than a county search. You can just start looking at these and see what it is. So this one's $33,000 for 6 acres. This one is 10 acres for $33,000. So really just kind of looking at what it is that you might be interested in. Oh, here we go. Here's my water feature. So with this one's a little trickier because this one's going to be a little harder to find. It just has Lumber Lane, Max Meadows in Virginia. But we do know the price and we know how many acres. So you can try and Zillow, put that in and see what you get. And I just hit enter on what I put in. Here's where you can do a little sleuthing. What you can look for is, this is on Lumber Lane, and this looks exactly like the picture on the one that I just found. So we have this one, this picture right here, it's Lumber Lane, so we found it. So I would just click on this one and see if there's any additional information for me. So we can look at the pictures, and we know, yep, this is the same property. And then do we have additional information? So it looks like there's no data. It is unimproved land. We can do prices and history. So it looks like it's been listed since December for $47,000. It has no additional history beyond that. So it didn't give us a whole lot of information, but if this is a property that you like, or you really like this area, one of the things that has helped us when we're looking for properties and we want to look at multiple properties. So say you're traveling and you're going to be in the area just to look at land and you don't want to drive an hour and a half for one property, what you can do is actually look here. And this is a great feature, Similar Homes. And you can actually find properties that are very similar. So you can do this if this type of property is what you're looking for. Another thing you can do is if you're looking more for proximity and you want to look at something that is close to you, what I do is I would just, kind of go in here and really look and search for properties. And you can do this same search in Zillow and just put in your criteria, and you can start finding properties that are all in the similar proximate area. And you do that just by looking. You can either remove boundaries, or you can right here. So this is how you can do a proximate search within Zillow. So if you find an area that you really, really like, that maybe you've gone to, you've visited, people, whatever, it's close to your church, it's close to the school district you want to be in, whatever that criteria is for you, it's near an airport, what is it that you're looking for? And you can put in what you're looking for into your search engine. And you would want to do the same thing here. You would want to put in your minimum and your maximums, because it's really important that you don't get yourself super excited for something that you can't afford. But then if there's anything here that you must have. So minimum of 5 acres again, and then days on Zillow, and there's any keywords. So for here, as you see the pain of what I was going through, it took it down to just 2 properties. So it looks like there's the one that we found up here. This is this property right here. And then there's also one down here. Don't get too discouraged because, like I said, not all realtors post land on Zillow. So it's okay if you don't find it on Zillow. You can use, you know, Lands of America. There's another one called Land Watch that you can use if it is land that you're looking for. So I hope you found this tips and tricks helpful, going through and putting all of what you're looking for together. It's really important. And, you know, it's okay if your search is really big at first, if you don't know what you're looking for. And then if you start to go look at a couple properties, you really can get a sense for the area, the type of topography, what's important to you. Because what I found during our search is what I thought was really important to us wasn't, and things that we didn't think were important to us actually made a big difference. And so as you're starting to look at properties, what you'll find is you'll narrow down those things. And it's really great if you have a list and you can go back and you can look at it. So you can see areas that you're kind of drawn to. You can see features that really are important to you or that you really relate to and respond to when you're on the property. And so by having a list and a way that you can document, I find it extremely helpful to narrow down your search. For us, we definitely had as much time as we needed. We did that on purpose. We wanted to make sure that we were not rushed, and we were looking for our forever property. So we were being a lot more picky than I think a lot of folks are when they're looking for land. There was several properties that would have probably worked absolutely fine for our needs. We would have been happy with them, but we didn't consider them ones that we'd want to live on forever. So put a list together, what's important to you. And the next thing I'll show you guys is how we narrowed down what it was that was important to us and how it kind of was a pivotal place that changed the way we were searching. Not the way I was physically searching here, but what was important to us. And the lists would go from me putting 80 properties for Nate to go look for and do GIS tracking and see if there was a creek on, to maybe 5 or 6 properties. And that was because we really narrowed down what we were looking for and what was important to us. So again, I hope you guys found this helpful. Please give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, share. Thank you so much and have a great day.